Hello, this is Satori, and today I will be showing off Musketeers in V Premium. In a meta still filled with powerhouses like Rose and Bermuda variants, Cecilia Reverse does fall behind them, but it's still a solid deck with some early potential, strong deck thinning, and high roll potential. So to start off, we have our Musketeer starter. The name is relevant because we have to, with some effects, we have to call out Musketeers, and we have ways to put our units back into the deck, so the Musketeer name is relevant. For the same reason, we are running 4 Musketeer crits. Then we're running 4 normal crits. You don't have more Musketeer triggers, sadly. So we're running 4 of any other crit that you want. I have a split of 2 crit sentinels and 2 draw sentinels. Please fix this ratio as you see fit to your local meta. I think the crits are nice for the high roll potential since this deck is a little bit weaker, so crit win game. But if you have a lot of like poets in your locals, maybe Grand Blue to block the Skull Dragons, I think the draw PGs might be a better option. And then we have 4 grade 3 Heal Guardians. Be careful to not damage deny yourself with these because you do need, most of the time, you at least need 2 counterblast for your power turns with Cecilia Reverse. But of course, there's matchups where some decks going first are extremely strong on their first grade 3 write up, so these are, I don't think, are optional, but you do need them to actually survive. Going forward we have 4 Maiden Berry. This card is amazing because it's a 13k stick on grade 3, which matters a lot. Plus, obviously, it makes a token on Vanguard or near guard, which makes it really, really convenient. And it gives 1 soul. We do soul a little bit in this deck, not too much. The soul charge isn't too relevant, but it is a valuable resource nonetheless, so it's nice to not have to worry about it. Then we have 4 Brute. The downside of this card is that it doesn't make tokens on rear guard, but on Vanguard it makes token if you go first. If you go second, it makes 2 tokens, so that's nice. And when it's called from the deck, or any other unit that's called from the deck, you can retire this and countercharge 1. We use a lot of counterblast. You do need to be careful because the body is irrelevant. Sometimes you will retire this and you will need to call out something from your hand. You can't replace it with other units, but sometimes you need this, obviously, to extend more to activate Cecilia Reverse and everything else. So yeah, definitely the counter charge is welcome. Something I see too many people playing is America. I play free America because I cut down a little bit of other cards that I don't like, and the reason is this gives more early pressure. I think this deck without America is lacking in the early pressure. I feel like I'm playing Neo Nectar. It's like I should be calling out all the tokens and rushing on grade 2, maybe even on grade 1. And it just seems like with the regular Musketeer build, I can't really do that often. So yeah, I included this. Again, makes a token on Vanguard and Rearguard. The downside is you need to call it behind Merca herself, which is not too bad. And it's also often, it will be an 11 or 14k booster, which also lets you hit higher numbers, which is relevant. So I really like this card. And then to Batmini, we had to cut down to make more slots for Merca. The thing is, you don't really want to remove Great Freeze from your deck. There's a lot that you want to call out with effects, so deck thinning Great Freeze doesn't really make sense. The main reason you still play these is because you do want to find beta. That is your ideal right target, going first and second. So I still run this, and the plus 5k is a little bit sad in this deck because it's not going to be active often, or when it is active, it's like not going to be relevant because maybe it's going to be sitting in a column that this is going to be locked anyway. So like on grade 3 turns, this is not going to be active often. That's it for grade 1s. For grade 2s, we have for Sylvia. This is still an early game powerhouse. It makes a token. It's not as relevant as before. It used to be before, but it still makes a free body, which is important. That alone. Retire for Soul, retire for Torre, retire for Vera, retire for Martina. Basically, we need a lot of bodies on our field just for retire effects. So it's still relevant, and it helps you rush, of course, just like before. So this is still great. Really simple, gets the job done. Soul, one of the better cards in Musketeers. So retire one, soul +1, retire one unit, check free, call one. If the called unit is a trigger, you can use counterblast one, activate the trigger. That's pretty cool. So again, early game rushing helps you find Cecilia reverses. Is important for Veta. So yeah, great. The card that I shaved down that I really dislike, Torre. This is counterblast one, do nothing often. You need to call, so you retire one, you check free, and you need to call Musketeers. It has to be a Musketeer, which is the part that I hate. Because often you can, like, even if most of our deck is Musketeers, there's still triggers. That is made of Sweet Berry, that is Padmini. This will, often you will only see one Musketeer, and like counterblast one, retire one, just to call one musket isn't that good in my opinion. So like the main reason you still play this because there's not many other great twos you can replace this with, in my opinion. Like Augustus and Kaivan don't really fill the slot that this does, and it still digs for the Cecilia reverse, which is important. It just really counterblast heavy, so that's why I cut down on Torres. And that's it for grade twos. For grade threes, you have the most important one, which is Veta. Counterblast 1, retire 1. You return 2 units to the bottom of your deck. Can be triggers. Amazing. So you can recycle heals, crits, jaws, whatever you need. Which means you can also recycle your sentinels, which is amazing. You then check top 5, call 2. Doesn't have to be muskets, but if you call 2 muskets, you get drive +1, which is really important. So you will want to call out muskets. Sometimes you can call out a crit musket just to have the +1 drive. And obviously you want to search for Cecilia reverse with this, or you can find the soul, and with soul dig further for a Cecilia reverse. But in general, this is still great. Even if you don't find Cecilia reverse, at least you can still play the game. And the second effect is, it's a continuous. If your opponent is gone on grade 3, and if you have a soul in front row, you get every trigger that you activate gives the power to the wall front row. So that's pretty cool. And then we have to Martina. So this is more high roll potential, which I think this deck needs a little bit. But this isn't even terrible to ride because it's Soul Blast 1, retire unit, check the 5, call 1. Which is great because, again, you can find Cecilia reverse. Don't have it all a lot of damage. Maybe you stuck on Counterblast 1 and you have a Veta in hand, but you also have this. You may consider riding this to find Cecilia reverse. Depends on how much you think you need the Cecilia reverse. Maybe activating Veta is just better on that turn. So yeah, this card is pretty cool. High roll potential, again, being called out on grade 2, being 18k. If you have a boost like swing for 30k with a crit 2 on grade 2, they're either going to be damage denying themselves, plus dropping a lot of cards, or they're going to be taking 2 damage, which in most matchups you're going to be happy about pushing them further. And then for Cecilia reverse, this is what makes your ceiling higher in this deck, which Veta lacked a little bit. So you can look at this card in a lot of multiple ways. This is a decent first try because as a first try, this is just a Mordred. Counterblast 1, retire 2, check the 5, call 2. So basically you're just playing Mordred. But obviously the important skill is the second one, if this was called out of the deck. After the attack that it attacked, you can lock the units. If a front row was locked, you can bind this card, write it, and obviously it comes into Vanguard Circle, you gain another force, and that doesn't lose drive, so it's a +2, plus a force marker. So it generates force, it draws cards. But you can look at it another way. You don't always have to go for the rewrite. Let's say you check the double crit on Vera. You give everything to Cecilia reverse, and you can use Cecilia reverse as a restander. So obviously it will be 33k. Let's say from the two crit swing, restand. So because the rewrite is not mandatory, and if you to rewrite, you need to lock the front row. But if you lock, like, let's say 2 back row units, this just restands. So this is still good. You do have to lock standing units, just to be clear. So this does have a lot of restrictions, but it is still a pretty cool card. So that's it for the deck profile. If anyone has any questions or suggestions how to make the deck better, please leave it in the comments, and see you next time.